Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to unlock one of the most powerful and, honestly, most useful features on your Baofeng UV82 radio. We're talking about listening to two channels at the same time. If you've ever wished you could monitor two frequencies without juggling two radios, then you're in the right place. Let's get into it. So, just picture this for a second. You're out somewhere, maybe at an event. You absolutely have to keep an ear on the main official channel, right? But at the same time, you need to coordinate with your own team on your private channel. How do you pull that off without carrying a bunch of extra gear? Well, the solution is built right into the radio in your hand. It's this awesome feature called Dual Watch. You'll see it in the menu as TDR, which stands for Dual Receive. And it does exactly what it sounds like. It lets you monitor two different frequencies, say one on VHF and another on UHF, all from one single device. It's a game changer. So how does this magic actually work? You might think there are two separate receivers crammed in there, but the secret is actually way cooler than that. It uses one single receiver, but it has a super fast processor that is constantly jumping back and forth between your two channels, your A channel and your B channel. It does this so fast, your brain can't even tell, and it feels like you're seamlessly listening to both at once. Pretty clever, right? Okay, so let's get our hands dirty. How do we actually switch this thing on? Well, the great news is that it's surprisingly simple. It all comes down to changing one little setting in the menu. Let's walk through this together button by button. First, press the menu key. Now, you could scroll, but here's a shortcut. Just press the number 7. That'll jump you right to the TDR setting. Press menu again to pop into that setting. Use your up or down arrow key to flip it from off to on. Then, and this is important, press menu one last time to save it. Finally, just hit exit and you're done. You've just turned on Dual Watch. And how can you be sure it worked? Just glance at your screen. Once you're back on the main display, you should see a tiny little S icon appear at the top. That little letter is your confirmation. It means Dual Watch is on and ready for action. All right, so the future's enabled. What's next? Well, now we have to actually put it to work. We need to tell the radio which two frequencies we want it to listen to. So you'll notice your screen now has two lines for frequencies, A and B. To switch between them, just tap that Exit/AB button. See that little arrow? It'll jump from the top line to the bottom. So get the arrow on line A and punch in your first frequency. Then hit the Exit/AB button again, move down to B, and type in your second one. That's it. The radio is now officially listening to both. Okay, now for the fun part. You're successfully monitoring two channels. But this opens up a couple of really important questions, like when you press the talk button, which channel do you transmit on? And what happens when you try to scan? Let's cover these essential pro tips. Okay, so this is a big one. You hear some chatter on one of your channels and you need to reply. You grab the radio, you press that big push to talk button on the side, but where is your voice going? Is it going out on channel A or channel B? This is a super important setting to get right, so your message goes where you want it to. The answer is hiding in menu 34, which is called TDR-AB. In here, you get three choices. You can lock it so it always transmits on line A or always on line B. But honestly, the most flexible and I think the best option is off. When you set it to off, the radio will simply transmit on whichever line you have selected. You know, the one with that little arrow next to it. This gives you total control moment to moment. Now, what about scanning? This is a spot where people sometimes get tripped up. If you're in frequency mode and you hit scan, you'll probably notice it's only scanning frequencies on that one selected line. To scan through all of your saved channels, here's the trick. First, you gotta switch your radio over to channel mode. Once you're there, just press and hold the scan button and it'll start cycling through your entire programmed list, just like you want it to. All right, I know we've covered a bunch of details, but let's just boil this all down. If you forget everything else, just burn these next few steps into your memory. This is your cheat sheet. So let's break it down to the absolute must-knows. 1. Dive into menu 7 and turn it on. 2. Punch in your first frequency on line A and your second on line B. And 3. Remember that the A/B button is your friend. It selects which channel you're going to transmit on. That's really the whole ballgame. And really, think about what you've just done. You fundamentally changed how you can use this radio. You've gone from just passively listening to a single conversation to actively commanding two. You've literally doubled the power of your radio's display just by learning this one simple feature. So I'm going to leave you with this question. Now that you have this power unlocked, what's the first pair of frequencies you're going to set up? Are you going to monitor a local repeater and a simplex channel? or maybe an official event frequency and your own personal team channel. The choice is yours. The power is now in your hands.